Come on. There we go. Okay, it's all yours.
All right. First of all, welcome everybody. Thank you for making the time to be here with us. So what I'm going to do is sort of present some of the broad frameworks and the introduction. We are sharing with you really a multi-year process that got us to what you see now, that's been focused on getting deep and thoughtful feedback, not only from our own members and friends, but from our major stakeholders and community partners, asking questions about in this time of remarkable and in many ways unprecedented change in both the social and political landscape of America, but also the religious landscape. What is it that River Road specifically is called to be to better serve our members and to better live our values in the world? So our strategic plan will go into effect this July and then be operational for us through 2028. John, you can head to the next one. So part of what we're talking about in the midst of this plan, and you're going to see a whole lot of specifics. I got a little bit of interference noise.
Yeah, if you could, everybody mute yourself so you're ready to ask a question, that would be great. Thanks.
Awesome. And Anna, if you could mute folks for us too, that'd be great. Or Natalie. There we go. So one of the things that we're addressing, and you'll see again, specifics, the exact work plan for the first year and onward past that. But part of what we're addressing is a general sense of rapid change in what Unitarian Universalism is or could be in the world, while maintaining the core of what Unitarian Universalism has always been about. So the way I want to frame this is Unitarian Universalists, for essentially the whole of our history in the United States, have in one way or another been countercultural, been like pushing the boundaries of what religion understands itself to be, been people who are not just shaped by culture, but who are shapers of culture. So a great example at River Road is that, you know, when River Roaders in the late 60s and the early 70s wanted to make a really big difference in terms of legislation, they just had to call Frank Church, who was the senator that half of them knew, and stay connected to political power in a way that allowed them to shape the discourse of American government in some really powerful ways. What is it that is boldly countercultural and of this moment for our UU work today? In many ways, the 20th century for Unitarian Universalism was framed around the values of freedom, reason, and tolerance. And those central values aren't going away, but I think there are some things shifting, that what people are yearning for is not so much a place to be heard individually, but a place to be less lonely in community. And so we've come to think of it as a sort of move from fundamentally or primarily individualistic to fundamentally relational and connected, while not at any point discounting or abandoning the importance of the individual search for truth and meaning. So the question at the bottom is important. How do we expand the we while still supporting the me? There are many ways in which our culture in this age is more divided and atomized and disconnected than ever. So I think we're asking, how do we build a deeply interconnected, relationally responsible, multi-age, multi-ethnic, multiracial community? You can do the next one, John. So I think one other thing I'll say about strategic planning and why we've done it and engaged in the incredible labor of bringing this to you all is that one way of meeting the future is to just like keep trying stuff. It's the throw spaghetti at a wall strategy, just like see what sticks. Just keep adapting and coming up with new ideas. And we wanted to be much more guided about that and to give ourselves the opportunity to have a sort of, I'm going to use a big word, like a dialectic, a back and forth in the coming years. Where in one year, we might create new programs. You could see create more opportunities for older adults to engage with. We might create new programs. In another year, we might be building on those programs we've created the previous year, so that it's not just a constant onslaught of new programs. It also includes building on what we've begun and assessing the success of what we've begun. So I think that's my intro. And Lisa, are you good to go?
You're muted, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. So one thing I want to say first about the strategic priorities is, and this strategic planning process, this document that we've created based upon all the feedback we've gotten from you, members and friends across the congregation, partners that we've worked with a long time on social justice issues, other congregations in our Potomac Partnership and beyond. We've taken all this feedback and all of the issues that you've brought, and we have looked at what's really aligning with their values, what's really important, and what do we have the resources to do. And as Nancy said, really, how do the whole 5 years, how does it fit together as we're growing and deepening our work? This is a living document. So at the end of each year, the board will develop a new action plan, and I'll talk more about the action plan in a few minutes, for the following year. In addition, these are our strategic priorities. They may change as external and internal factors change in the world and in our congregation. This, however, gives us a framework to build toward now. So it's flexible and it gives us a path on where to go forward. So let's take a quick review of the strategic priorities by year, and I'll go into more detail about year one after this. We heard from many of you that we wanted to create more opportunities for our members and friends who are older, both those in retirement communities and those who live in our community. Also, loud and clear, all of the groups we talked to felt a real need to develop new opportunities, both virtual and in person, now that we're really being together in a hybrid way. And we want to develop the online to be as strong as the in-person and vice versa. To do these two strategic priorities, we need to expand our infrastructure. We need to really increase volunteer engagement. We need to develop volunteer leadership through training and support, as well as increase financial resources if we're really going to be accomplishing all of these strategic priorities that we have. So that's year one. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to do the things we're already doing. We're still continuing with social justice. We're still working on Green Sanctuary. These are two areas in which we're really going to focus some new energy in. So for year two, we want to begin to prioritize what our social justice efforts are and do that in a very intentional way, based on community needs assessments, input from our partners, issues that are going on the national and local levels, and in collaboration with our Potomac Partnership, Cedar Lane, and Fairfax and beyond to other congregations, which can help us make more of an impact. So we often, start working on social justice issues because there's interest among a couple people. We want to be intentional and really focus on what we can do to really make a difference in our community. The next one is building on the current efforts around Green Sanctuary. We want to begin to build out to do both education and social action in the local, state, and national level. So again, wonderful work's been going on. We want to build on that. Year two is a really important year to be focusing on what opportunities we can take advantage of in terms of financial, staffing, and volunteer resources with our partners. And we are meeting, the chairs and vice chairs meet monthly with the chairs and vice chairs of the other two congregations to look at opportunities. Year 3, we have heard that we really need to develop more resources and more energy around 2 groups, the emerging adults and the young adults. And we know that we may not have all the strategies we need to do this effectively. We are going to be partnering with Potomac Partnership. For example, Fairfax has, they're hiring a consultant who really is expert on strategies for these audiences. So we can really make a concerted effort, as well as build ministries in local universities and colleges. So we're very excited about that. As you know, Beth, Laura, and Reverend Amanda have been holding conversation groups about what spiritual education at River Road could look like. And so in year 3, we're really going to be taking a look at different models of spiritual education. If somebody could mute, thanks. That would be across the age groups. Thank you. And then we also want to look at how we can think about our building, our grounds, and all of our facilities, how we can better leverage them with our renters, with our partners, with our members and friends, and make sure that we are using them to the best possible advantage to align with our UU values. So we'll begin exploring that in partnership with groups in the community. The next year, we're going to be deepening our opportunities for in-person and virtual connections. We'll be ready to adopt new models for spiritual education, testing them out. And we really want to deepen our commitment to how we can use our facilities and our grounds to really support our community, our larger community. So we're going to be really committing at that point to what model would be most effective. Next slide, please. In this final year of the 5-year plan, we're going to be implementing the community service model. We're going to be mobilizing members of our congregation to partner with communities to provide on-site services. That's something we heard loud and clear from our partners, that they felt that there's a lot of wonderful partner work going on, and we are so grateful for everything everyone's doing. And it would be really helpful if we could also provide some support on site, whatever that may look like. And finally, in this work, both implementing the community service model and mobilizing our members, this means deepening both our current and our new social justice partnerships. So you see how it all ties in together. John created this wonderful 3-legged stool that Nancy and I and everyone on the board loves. And it's a great illustration of what we need to emphasize when we think about what needs to happen to implement these strategic priorities. You'll see on the left leg, there's the board and all our responsibilities. On the right leg, all of the work the staff does to coordinate, lead, and manage. That middle leg is critical, however. That's the congregate engagement and leadership. And that's why we're really going to put an emphasis upon engaging more members across the congregation, providing them the ongoing support they need and the training so that they can, and we can together do the work, so that we feel like being part of the congregation is something everybody's contributing to, not that we just come and kind of watch the services, which in some faiths, that's what happens. And we would like to work more together and deeper. Next slide, please. So to give you a sense of what we're looking at in more detail about year 1, you'll see that there's an action plan that's included in the strategic plan if you reviewed it before this. And the beauty of the action plan is that we're really committing to taking action steps by a certain time. We're identifying which staff are responsible and which volunteers are responsible, because there's no way that the staff can do this alone. It's got to be a total commitment from everybody to be able to implement these strategic priorities. We also have on this action plan, when you take a look at it, simple qualitative and quantitative ways we're going to know that we have accomplished this particular action step. So if you haven't looked at it yet, take a look after this, and you can see that we're really going to hold ourselves accountable to doing this, because it's one thing to have a list of strategic priorities and then nothing happens. This is going to be much more of a commitment than that. So of the 3 strategic priorities for year 1, I'll give you an idea of a couple of action steps. In terms of those who are living in local retirement communities, we know there's a number of communities who have Unitarian Universalist members and who would love to feel more part of that community. So we're going to outreach not just to those who were formally or currently part of River Road, but to any Unitarian Universalist members that are interested. And we are going to identify 2 leaders in each community who can lead the effort, along with our wonderful pastoral care lay minister, Holly, and volunteers, which I'll talk about more in a minute. And this will be an opportunity to offer the pastoral care, in addition, spiritual support, and an opportunity to get involved in our social justice. And what I think of when I think of this is a few years ago when we did the Get Out the Vote, there was a tremendous participation by members of the retirement communities. And they were really excited to have strategies that were very doable for them and made them feel really engaged and were so helpful. And in fact, we found after the election that it did make a difference. We also want to support older members and friends in the community. And ways in which they have asked us to help include offering rides to services and looking at opportunities for mentors where older members can mentor youth and young adults. In terms of increasing opportunities for in-person and virtual connections, we want to really take advantage of the start we had during the pandemic. We know that we have a lot more people online that continue to go online and watch the services. We'd like to engage them all week long. So one of the ways is to look and see if they want to form small groups or neighborhoods, quote neighborhoods, because they may be, we've got people from across the country joining now. We also want to use social media to engage folks with you messages. And we can involve all of our different groups, especially our social justice groups, in developing content to send out and for our members and friends to engage all week long. It's this not just Sunday, but week-long involvement. Creating a more welcoming environment. Oh, I'm sorry. First, enabling congregants to interact in person socially. We used to have all kinds of potlucks and activities, and as you recall, the pandemic put a stop to all that, and we need to re-engage in that way. People are, as we know, are feeling isolated to some extent, and so there's a number of things we can do. We can engage new folks by, for example, pairing them with existing members and friends to help them feel like they're part of the congregation, to make sure that they are supported in their journey as they start. We also are going to have a group of volunteers, which we're calling right now the Fun Squad. Diana came up with that, I love it. And the Fun Squad will be the volunteers who develop and coordinate all these social activities that we can do together so that it's not just up to the staff to do it. Creating a more welcoming environment. We want to be sure that our services continue to speak to the needs of a broad, diverse congregation. And we want to do a number of things to make it comfortable for everybody. And one of the strategies that we heard loud and clear is that our coffee hour is wonderful for some people. And for other people, it's really difficult if they don't know many people or if they tend to be more introverted. So we're looking at fun ways we can restructure coffee hour to really engage all kinds of people with all kinds of styles. Again, so people feel welcome no matter what their communication style is, their familiarity with the congregation. So these, and then what you see as the foundation of these is to increase the volunteer engagement and develop volunteer leadership. We want to create 2 new committees. One is going to be the older adult or senior outreach committee, who Holly can help coordinate to work with both the retirement community and the older adults in the community. And then we're also going to have a team called the Connections team. And we will bring a consultant to help work with the Connections team to look at what are innovative ways we can really connect both online and in person so that folks feel really welcomed, comfortable, and a part of things and want to engage together. So to do this, we are going to be training and doing leadership training as well. One of the curriculums we'll look at is one that Arlington's developed, as well as some other curriculums to put together a really nice leadership training curriculum. So that's a lot, I know, but you can think about it. Look forward to your questions, and I'm going to hand it back to Nancy for our final thank you.
And I got the good job, which really is thank you. I mentioned before, it's a multi-year process that gets us here. And it's also, just the faithful service, sometimes many long hours of this team, including Lisa and John Karner. Thank you so much. And our whole team that went into this, both in phase 1, which was our initial information gathering all the way back in last church year, and phase 2, some of you are in the room right now. Really, to the partner organizations that took the time to talk to us, and to the people who took the time to talk to those organizations and those friends, it's been an important and sometimes laborious, but I think illuminating process. And we really are open to your questions.
So again, let me just reiterate, if you'd like to ask a question, you'll see down at the bottom of your screen a reactions button, and it says raise hand. If you raise your hand, you'll be put into a queue, and I'll be calling on you, and you can unmute yourself. So the floor is open. The only thing I'd ask you to remind yourself is when you're done asking your question, you'll also see a button that says lower hand. Please do that so I know you're done.
Okay. I don't see it.
It's open for questions. And I don't see anybody having clicked the raise. Yeah, John, okay, you're not.
I don't know. I don't see something for raise hand.
Okay, that's all right. Go ahead, John.
You have to hit reactions first, and then it's in a menu under reactions.
But we
Thank
got
you.
you, John. We
We
got
got
Thank
you,
you.
John.
We got you. Good job.
Good. Well, I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. As some of you know, one of my main concerns has been membership growth. And I was worried that what the UUA was doing at a national level with the Article 2 changes paid little attention to the reality that most congregations desperately need: growth in membership and pledging. River Road is relatively well off in this regard, although we do have to be concerned that a lot of our older and generous contributors may be retiring, moving away, or sadly dying, but that's a reality too. So some of what I heard was a focus on being more welcoming to people who do somehow accidentally come through our doors, and offering additional programming, particularly designed to support and encourage, particular groups of us, including old guys like me. And that's good. But I would really like to see this plan in some constructive way address how we can do more outreach to get people in to the door in the first place. I have no secret as what that is. But it's a desperate need. And I'm concerned that our strategic plan does not specifically address that. That we may become better and better aligned with UU values. That's always good. But we got to get people in here. And some of them will come, I think, back on Article 2, I think our existing principles plus one on racial justice is the kind of list that people can readily understand. And if they are aligned with these values or think they ought to be, maybe we can get them in. But becoming too vague and general about love, I don't think we'll do that. So that's my general concern, without having a concrete answer to what's the best way to do it. But I figure out there are some useful lessons, strategies, tactics. And I would just like to see more recognition of the need to get there. Thank you.
Can I take this quickly, Lisa?
Please,
So,
Nancy.
for the moment, I'm going to leave the UUA bylaws revisions on a separate pile because we're
I
working
understand that.
with this strategic plan. And John, what I want to speak to first is the question of how we get new members.
Right.
And one piece of good news, just really straight up good news, and you do see a response to that reflected in this, is that we actually do not lack visitors at River Road. We are doing actually really great in terms of new visitors on a regular Sunday to Sunday basis. Where we have a problem is essentially moving those first-time visitors into regular attendees and into membership, and beyond that into leadership. So and we are having conversations about the kind of marketing that is meaningful these days, because we are so past like the days of a billboard on the side of the highway being meaningful. Like that is not how my generation and after is going to find us. In fact, increasingly people do not even find us via the website. They're finding us on social media. Of course, they're finding us through word of mouth. So we are having conversations about how to better leverage ourselves on social media. We just started a blog, a podcast. It's called The Progressive Spirit, the River Road Podcast. There's like 3 episodes and we hope to build on that. But the bigger issue, and this is like not quite crisis, but it is super legit on membership growth, is that ever since Sherry Blanchett retired, we have not really shored up the new visitor to member pipeline. Like, how does that all happen? How can we formalize that? How can we make sure that when a visitor comes, they not only are greeted at the door, but they're followed up with by lay leaders, and that we are connecting those folks to the small groups and activities that are going to make membership meaningful. So this strategic plan includes a commitment to sort of bolster our membership committee and our understanding of what membership ministry means. And in fact, this is breaking news even to Lisa and John. I have just worked out a contract with a consultant who's a colleague who's going to come in to meet with our membership ministry and greeting team in the early fall.
Wonderful.
Because there are too many holes in our visitor to member process. It's very, very holy and not in a good way.
I wonder if it would be helpful to add that. We can talk about that, Nancy, in terms of language around the importance of why it's focused that way, and there's not a strategy that says, add 100 members. I mean, that we definitely did not feel that that was the most effective way to do it. You do notice, John, of course, that the young adults and the emerging adults are groups that we really do want to be very intentional around reaching out to and engaging, because of their, like, our future, right, of the congregation. So that will be based upon strategies that have been documented to be effective. with
Yeah,
those
so that's
groups.
also going to be like new media kind of
Yeah.
marketing and outreach.
Yeah.
Great. So other questions? Thank you, John, for your question.
Thank you, John.
You now, but you can always come up again. Other questions from folks? Reactions? I know it's 7:30, but come on, we are Road Unitarian Universalists. There gotta be questions. There we go. Diana, go ahead.
Great.
Unmute yourself.
Yeah, unmuted. I get frustrated when I hear about providing more leadership training and getting more people involved in leadership, because that has been a constant struggle for the 25 years I've been a member of River Road.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was on LNN, we provided leadership training, and we were training all the same people who were doing all the leadership. And so I would really like to have the board or whoever figure out an effective way of getting new people
Mm-hmm.
into the chute going up to leadership, and new people taking on the tasks such as coordinating the bazaar, the area leader jobs, the more people on the retreat committee, things like that. I mean, it is so hard to get people to commit to leadership.
Something that comes up for me when you say that is how LNN had been very creative in encouraging people who hadn't before to volunteer for LNN, for the board, or the leadership positions. And I think definitely we can try some new strategies. One of them, in terms of sharing the stories of the people who have found it to be really impactful on their lives as they were leaders, that story sharing seems to be very impactful. And another strategy that Nancy is going to be implementing is also with our older adult members, is have them share their stories, and to hear what folks have gained on a personal level and a spiritual level from their involvement can really excite new members. So definitely that's got to be a big emphasis of what we're doing. Thanks, Diana, for that.
And Diana, I'll just add, I got no illusions. We're not going to solve this. Like, this is a perennial issue. And I do want to say that post-pandemic or in late pandemic, wherever we are, the question about lay leadership and having enough lay leaders to do what we say we want to do it's worse. Like, in my time at River Road, this is the hardest it has ever been to recruit leaders for committees. And part of that is because the pandemic disrupted how we function, and the idea of committing to things that for one reason or another, including the global disruption of everything we had let go of, people are not picking things up fast. And the other thing I will say is that Generation X and younger, while committed to leadership, does not want to lead in the same exact way that their predecessors in congregational leadership did. The days of the super long committee meeting and the committee meetings that happen, on a weekly basis and that happen in person, they are a change in, and we have to adapt how leadership is supposed to work so that younger people can step up to it, including, frankly, less long committee terms, more individual tasks and projects that people can commit to for a time-bound period. We're going to have to change what we count as adequate volunteerism by changing the way we do leadership in the coming year.
I really agree with that. And just for example, for the board, I think that the typical board volunteer tends to be retired and can often spend a huge amount of time on the board work. Well, that's Diana's smiling because we're talking about, we're going to have to reshape how we do the board work in a way so that people want to come on and don't feel like they're signing their life away, for a couple years. So we definitely need to try new strategies and all this because it's a really important issue. Thank you
And
for bringing that
just-
up, Diana.
I'm being repetitive, but in 5 years, we will have less committees than we have right now. It's
We've got to.
it is shifting around us, which is not to say the work won't all remain. It's just that it has to get delivered in ways that people can say yes to it.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, comments, concerns, consternation? It's a lot of alliteration for one night. Yes, John, go ahead.
Thank you. My other question occurred to me as I reviewed all of these things. There's the item about coordinating better with our values, the use of the building. I'm not sure what that means. At this time, we're still happy to get regular tenants and we have engaged them. I don't think we've ever signed up anybody who was antithetical to our values, but it's been mainly, can we get somebody here in the building to pay rent and help us keep the whole enterprise afloat? Is there some specific change that we might work on? I just don't quite understand where that goal would take us.
Sure. And we don't know exactly what it would look like. We know that there is a need to look at, we've got the tenants, and how else can we help in our social justice work and our community work? We've got a lot of land and we have an amazing facility, and there may be more ways in which we can share it as well. Nancy's had a lot of dreams about this. Nancy, do you want to share a little bit of what
Yeah,
it possibly look like?
this is super nerdy, John, but like organizational management consultants and people who work in churches in this declining age for churches have this strategy of asking, like, what are our gifts and what are our burdens as an institution? What's a gift that isn't being fully leveraged? What are the resources that we have at our fingertips? And the truth is that building is a remarkable resource. It is, of course, beautiful. It's well situated for people to get to it. And so in the longer term, what would it look like for that building to serve our financial needs? We're already renting it a lot more now than even we were 5 years ago. Certainly when I came to River Road, the building was more ours. It was really primarily for River Road programming in a way that was more closely held than is the case now. I think it has gone up and down over the years. You may remember, the child care center that was literally the first affordable child care in Montgomery County that was in that building, right? So we've been leveraging that building for missional, values-based purposes over the years, a long time. I feel like in the last decade, we kind of retracted and mostly filled it with our events. And if we want to live our values in the world, our building is one of our greatest resources for how we do that. So you see that already at work in Scotland AME Zion worshiping with us. You see that at work in To Be Well Fed, the nonprofit that is operating out of the lower level. And it's a decision that I think certainly the program staff has been incredibly flexible and incredibly gracious to say, if there is a values-based use of this space, can we then flex some of our ministry and programming around to make use for that? So I would love to see more of that as we move forward. And also, we will not be able to be what we are unless we leverage that building for maximal rental potential. So it's like rental uses, values-based uses, River Road uses. And if we can figure out how to manage all that and keep that building hopping, it also lends a sense of vitality to the place that I think will help us.
Thanks again, John, for that question. Other comments or questions? I know we have some other people on the line who I can't see because they haven't turned their cameras on. But I'm happy to have anybody would like to comment or say a question. Ah, hi,
Hey,
Glenn.
Glenn.
Yeah. Other comments or questions about the plan? Yeah, there's Steve. Okay. Well, I'm so glad that you all have read it and now you totally understand it. And there's not another question in the group. I am absolutely stunned that River Road has no more questions.
Can I blab about one more good thing? If there's-
Nancy, you and Lisa have all the blab
Oh,
time you need.
all right.
So, first of all, it's a really great thing to have Holly Dempsey on board as our lay minister for pastoral care. She's really helping. Among all the ways she's helping to make my job more sustainable. And the first year initiative about building and maintaining the connections with our older members and members in senior living communities, we already have a variety of things in the works. The wheels are turning for that. Among them, some of you might remember Stories of a Lifetime. Maybe any of you remember this? So we had these amazing programs, mostly cycled through CCNC, where our senior members who maybe had been at River Road a long time, certainly were connected in their faith journeys to Unitarian Universalism for a long time, gave the stories of the central learnings and experiences of their lifetimes as a speech to the CCNC gatherings. And I tell you, sometimes I will be planning memorial services. Louise Quick came to me with the DVD of Bob Quick's Story of a Lifetime in CCNC, and we used it to plan his memorial service. It was beautiful. We're bringing him back. So we're going to do Stories of a Lifetime once a month. And we're going to connect that with sort of like a homecoming Sunday, where hopefully, if we can pull off the logistics, anybody who would like a ride to River Road can come on that Sunday. We'll have some special greeting and welcoming, and then we'll gather after coffee hour for Stories of a Lifetime. And my hope is to actually leverage the spiritual storytelling folks to help craft the Stories of a Lifetime with the folks who'll be sharing them. So we'll see. That's the plan. I'm excited for it.
And Nancy, looking at the folks I'm seeing here, I think there are a number of people who I know are really good storytellers.
Oh, we got some stories, people.
I'm looking forward to their signing up for this.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like Glenn has Glenn is putting his thumb up. Okay. Yay. Yeah, so that, when someone, Diane
Oh,
was mentioning
John,
before.
I'm sorry, hang on. John, did you have another question or comment?
Well, comment. First, looking around the array of pictures, I'm very pleased to see a lot of people I don't really know. That's evidence of a healthy community. And the other thing is, I did the Reflections on a Lifetime for several years. I've forgotten how long, 4 or 5. And today at dinner, I'm in the Fox Hill senior community. My wife suggested that we should try to introduce that comment at Fox Hill, that program at Fox Hill. And so this is just a lovely coincidence that the idea is seen well elsewhere. I do hope you get back into it. I wound up in a problem of recruiting people who were willing. I knew there were good stories, but some people were very reluctant to talk about them. Anyhow, I congratulate you on that new initiative of a good old thing.
Thanks, John. Hi, Ursula. Good to see you.
Hey, Ursula.
So any other comments, questions?
I was just going to mention before
Yeah.
that's an example of how we do want to engage folks who maybe haven't engaged with the congregation recently or in the past, to bring the creativity and take advantage of it from across the congregation, instead of just a few people that are always doing everything.
And I saw Crescent appear and disappear there for just a whole.
Your picture.
Okay. And there's
Great. There's Crescent.
one of our board members. Thank you, Crescent.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'm tempted to ask for a show of hands of who's read the plan, but I'm not going to do that. Never mind. Thank you, Ann. I saw your hand. Thank you, John.
John, if we're gonna end, can I take just a little point of privilege and let people share some pastoral news that I think it's good for
Absolutely.
folks to know?